Hey, welcome back to another Just 15 Minutes. In the last little video, the very professional video, so I'm just moving a few things around on the screen just to prove that I am a real professional here. We use some vibe coding. Yeah, well, you have to jump on that meme trip, clickbaity type thing, don't you? But it was a way more than 15-minute video, and but it went through three of the online vibe coding or code generation platforms. Lovable, what was the other one? Replit and Firebase Studio from Google. And out of three, like I said, I think Lovable actually worked quite well. The interesting thing about those platforms is that if you are a non-coder and you want to get started, then the reality, those types of platforms are perfect because it's all in the browser. You don't have to fiddle around with command line tools or anything like that. And obviously, all of those platforms, I think, if my memory serves me correct, also had deployment options where they would deploy your application for you as well. Okay, so and you can do things like have your own custom domain and stuff like that. But you are then paying approximately, I can't remember the exact prices, but I think all of them, the personal one, personal plan was about $25 a month without tariffs. Sorry, I shouldn't keep joking about that. So that's fine, but that's $25 a month for, depending on your application. But the one that I built was obviously this like an inspirational quotation app type thing. And $25 a month to host that is obviously, not really sustainable, I don't think. It's not a lot of money because you can obviously build way more complex applications and still have it served up, for $25 a month. They've got obviously more dedicated plans and other options and all of that, which is all great. So this time around, I thought I'd look at. I looked at Claude Code, which is a command line utility, okay, or a command line interface, a CLI. I looked at that a few weeks ago, and to be honest, it blew my mind away. I think for me as a sort of developer, I'm not a real developer anymore, that's for sure. But with a little bit of development knowledge, or at least even the willingness to do a bit of command line, because honestly, even with Claude Code, I did very little coding. But there was some configuration stuff like setting it up correctly. Claude Code, when I looked at it, and again, it's a good month or more ago as the time of this recording, I couldn't get the darn thing to work on Windows with PowerShell or WSL, which is Windows Subsystem for Linux. So it's sort of like Linux running on Windows. I couldn't get that to work very well, but then that could be just down to my Linux tech knowledge, all sorts of different things. But where I did get Claude Code to run was I just created a Docker container, and I had Ubuntu Linux in there, and I was able then to go into the Linux command line, and it was fine. Okay, but that's the point, is that there were a few steps there. You've got to have Docker. You need to know what Docker is. You don't need to know all of this inside out by any means. And I can bet that I can show anyone how to get this set up in just a few micro sort of sessions, which I'm hoping to do. It's something that I've been wanting to do. There's so much stuff out there on the internet. It's sort of a bit overwhelming to want to try to add to that, but I am thinking about doing a Unicorn University where it's sort of micro micro sessions and certainly micro cost, because I'm very aware, there's some amazing courses out there, but where they're like $900 or $500, not everybody's got that sort of money to throw around, have they? Anyway, but the point being is Claude Code was very simple. I didn't do really any coding to get like a quotation app running and stuff like that. But like I said, at the time, it might have changed. I'm going to go back and revisit Claude Code. But I did have to like really run on a Linux machine. I think if you're on a Mac as well, it probably would have worked out of the box on a Mac OS as well. But certainly for us poor Windows users, it didn't really work out of the box. So that leads me on to, in the last week, OpenAI have launched a whole swathe of things. There's a lot going on. Their naming of things are just absolutely incredibly bad, aren't they? But they've released, I think, GPT 4.1, but they've also got reasoning models. Instead of 3.0 or whatever, they've got 0.3 or something. I'm really confused already. So I don't know where anybody's got a chance to remember what those are. But anyway, they've got reasoning models, they've got whatever. But they... and I have to say, it looks very like Claude Code. Sorry, OpenAI, but it does. But they've released the OpenAI Codex CLI. Okay, I'll put links in the show notes. Now, this is why I mentioned at the start of this recording, if you're really not a coder, and that's okay. I mean, you're in a different world now, where coding is becoming a lot more democratized, isn't it? At least to start with. But with this, yes, there is a little bit of configuration to use. And again, a little bit, this is very much like Claude Code. So it's a command line tool. So if you've never seen a command line tool, it's where you go into your command prompt, things like that. But again, not everybody, if you're not necessarily a coder or working in that sort of world, you probably haven't seen this type of interface. So if you haven't, you might be better off looking at those Lovable, Replit, Firebase Studio, where it's all online. Do you like the little unicorn? See there? Anyway, so who am I? I ask myself this every day. There you go. So it's a command line interface. Now you've got on Windows, you've got PowerShell, command prompt. You've got if you've got things like WSL, you've got that as well. You can have like Linux versions on there and all the rest of it. Now, again, this isn't difficult to set up. It really isn't. But with apologies, I was just coughing while I muted myself there. With OpenAI's Codex, which is very much like Claude CLI, Code CLI, it's still, you do need to run it from the command line. Now, the interesting thing, it looks a lot easier to actually get started, basically. Okay, there's a command line npm install, which will get your get Codex installed. But again, this is where it gets a little bit codey. So for being able to get npm, you need Node. And then that people go, what the heck is Node? So then you have to install Node. So that's why these types of things, I take it for granted. But I realize if you're really not a developer, then some of this stuff might be, might be sort of out there for you. But again, the reality is installing Node, if you go to Node.js and look for the download of your whatever your operating system is, it's click, 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 set up. It really isn't difficult. Okay. If there's enough people want it, like I say, I'm thinking about putting a micro course together with a micro payment. So just to get over that hill, because like I say, as much as those browser-based vibe coding platforms are great, there's something about having your hands in the clay a little bit at least. And that's what I'm going to be showing you. So I'll basically get on with the show. So ultimately last week from the time of this recording, so what would that have been? Mid sort of April, about the 12th or 13th of April 2025, OpenAI have released a whole swathe of different reasoning models, chat GPT, keep saying GPT 4.1, but also this, like I said, the OpenAI Codex CLI. Again, it looks very much like Claude code. But anyway, I'll get over that. So anyway, there's a couple of things that you need to do. You need to do an npm install. So again, you need Node.js, which, in fact, let's just do that. Let's just go to Node.js. Okay. And if we find Node.js down here, there we go. I'll just close up that one. This is Node.js. Now it'll detect what version of operating system you're on, but you can certainly install Node for Windows, Mac, Linux, all the usual things, and off you go. You literally just download it, and it'll download onto your platform. Okay, you can then come into a command prompt, and I'll show you that in a second, and run this command here, npm install, and do that. You can literally copy that command. Now on Windows, I again had a little bit of a problem. I think if you're on a Mac or Linux, you're not going to have an issue, but even running it as what they call WSL, Windows Subsystem for Linux, or the Ubuntu command prompt and stuff, I still had a bit of an issue. Okay, but what I did do is look at the they've got like an issues log, bug reports and such, and sure enough, other Windows users had come across it. Anyway, I ended up using Visual Studio Code. It's the full code release. Again, totally free. Go and have a look for VS Code to download it. It really isn't as complex to get it as you might think. You can literally just install it. It's an IDE. Yeah, integrated development environment. It's basically where you can open code files and all the rest of it. It's got lots of tools and extensions and goodness knows what. Anyway, what I ended up doing is coming into here, and when you go to the terminal, so if you go to a new terminal, okay, it defaults to whatever your platform is. Mine's, I think, PowerShell. Okay, but what I ended up doing, it also gave me something called git bash. Now, again, if this is not making sense to you, yeah, don't worry. It doesn't make sense to a lot of people. But basically, it's a bash script shell, so it's a Linux type of environment. Now, once I went into that, and I'll get rid of that, and I'll get rid of that. Yeah, so once I got into here and did, copied that command that was there, which is that one there. Yeah, okay, copied that, and I've popped that into there. Okay, that's all I've done. I've just copied that in. Now I've already got it installed, but so it'll either say you've already got it installed, or it's going to check for some changes and pull them down. So off it goes through its little sort of like download install-y bit. Yeah, so it's updated the CLI. Okay, so now I'm here, I can simply type codex. Okay, now what it will require is you need an open API key, and obviously it's not free. I should have started that at the start of this video. It's not free, but it doesn't actually cost a huge amount. So the idea is you have to log into, if I go into, go to platform.openai.com, log in, and you will have to, if you go to your I forget where it is, the settings, it's got billing in there. You will have to pop in some credits. Like I had to put like about $10 on there. But as you will see, as you will see, how much does it actually cost? Well, like I said, we can have a look at that. We can have a look under usage. And you can see that on April the 19th, which is today that I'm recording this, it basically, how much did that cost? 15 cents. So the application that I built cost 15 cents. Now, I don't know about you. It took me about 3 or 4 minutes to actually ask and generate the code, or 5 minutes maybe with some fine tuning. And for 15 cents, that's not too bad, is it? Again, I use that a little analogy about using Fiverr to go and get someone to build this. I'm pretty sure that nobody can build it for 15 cents and within 5 minutes. Okay, but I'm just being a bit of an idiot there. So, okay, so once you do log in, you will need some, well, not some, you'll need an API key. Okay, so I've got I create, basically you go and create a new secret key. So you look in your dashboard for API keys, create a new secret key. I put my key in, okay, and the way that it works is that in the documentation, okay, let me just close down the Node.js tab. In the documentation, you can use this command to put your key in. Okay, so that's great, but you can also add your OpenAPI key into a .environment file. Now, all I did to create that was in Visual Studio, I started with literally just a blank folder. Okay, and I generated a file as they've told me on the documentation. It's .env, so there's no file name. It's literally just .env. Okay, now don't worry, I'm going to kill these keys after this recording anyway. And literally that's what the documentation said, was put OpenAI API key in there and literally paste in your key. Like I say, good luck with trying to use that one, because I'm going to delete it straight after this video. And the idea is, because that's in this folder where you're now in the terminal, you're good to go, basically. So I can say yes there. What that was asking me, by the way, just before there, is it's saying that you don't have any source control set up. So by using AI to go and change files, you'd be better off using source control, because you can roll back changes if it's gone and screwed something up. But I don't care at the moment. Okay, so I can see we'll go into source control maybe in the course, because it is sensible to use a source control system like Git, they call it, is the popular one, and it means that, yeah, if you make a wrong turn, you can rewind that, basically. Yeah, so I can see it's using the latest 04 Mini, but this is not 4.0. Just don't get confused with that, because they've changed the namings. But 04 Mini is apparently very good for coding. So that's what it's using. Okay. So anyway, I said generate me an inspirational quote app, and this is what it created. Okay. So I can show you the prompt, but all I really said was, look, I want an inspirational quote web app, pure JavaScript, HTML, CSS, because I didn't really want to use any complex frameworks. A lot of those other vibe coding platforms automatically use things like React and stuff like that, which are JavaScript frameworks. I've got nothing against React. I don't use it myself. You know, and I can read JavaScript pretty well, but I don't use that platform. But this generated pure JavaScript, nothing else. No, oh, let's pull this package in and grab that library and things like that. And look, it's nothing special at the moment. It's quite basic. I also mentioned I wanted to embed the references to these images and the text, but also to wait for 30 seconds and then do a nice fade transition like it's doing there to the next one. But I can go if I was on a mobile device, it has actually got swipe capability. So I could swipe left, swipe right, but I can also click these go left button, go left, yeah, or obviously go right. And it just works. It just works really well. So it generated these files here. It generated the CSS, cascading style sheets. It created HTML for me. Now, if you don't know anything or much about JavaScript, CSS, HTML, don't worry. I don't think you need to initially. I mean, eventually, it's like what I mentioned a while back. It's like when you're playing as a kid, you know, building Lego or Meccano or whatever was the thing at the time. You know, you're not expected to be a structural engineer before you start playing with these things. And the same thing here goes, I think, is, you know, if you've got a desire to build something like an application or something, then these sorts of AIs now are really enabling so much more to get started. And that's the thing. It's lowering that barrier to get you across that threshold to get going. Sure, then you probably would benefit from understanding a little bit about the, you know, the code. But there's a billion resources out there that can teach you this stuff, and it doesn't cost a fortune. I mean, just go on, look on YouTube. There are some really good sort of trainers out there that go through things like JavaScript and CSS and things like that. So if you really want to go a lot further, brilliant. But the idea is that, yeah, it essentially built all of this. Now, the JavaScript that actually is the bit of code that's actually running this, again, it's created it in native JavaScript, as in there's no other dependencies on anything else. And to be honest, it's written in a very modern JavaScript sort of way. And, you know, I didn't ask it to put into modules. I didn't ask it to do anything overly complex, but it's working quite well. And it's doing, like I say, it's got a click event for left and right and all these things. And it's really clean. It's really nice. And what I also did, initially, I asked it to pick up the quotes and the images from a file, but there was a bit of an issue because most modern browsers, when you're trying to load files locally without the right sort of permissions, it doesn't work. So I said, well, look, to start with, just put the references within the actual HTML. So I've got a, they call it a JSON file. It's just a data structure. But basically, you can see what's going on. It's got an image reference to a free online image share. And it's got a quote text, and it's got an author, and it repeats it. So we've got essentially an array, a collection of these quotes. Now, there's only 3 at the moment, and they are actually hard-coded. But my point being is that maybe as part of a little micro course, we'll take this a little bit further and have this build on having a small little database to have these quotes and images in, so that you can add to it as you go forward. Okay, so that's the point. Is it's very simple, but the end result is, I think, actually really quite well. Now, I could ask, like, you know, there's that grey in the background there. Let's just do one last thing before we wrap up. Is I'm going to say, could you change the grey bottom? Oh, if I can even type bottom text background to white, please. I like to say please because you never know when the AI overlords are going to take over. So if I do that, I'm in the Codex command prompt anyway. So let's do that. It's going to think, and it'll probably ask me what I want to do. So it's looking at the files, it's looking at the code, it's working some stuff out there. But this type of stuff, you know, where you don't want to be fiddling around with CSS and all sorts of silly little things. There we go. So, okay. So it said, oh, this is what I'm going to do. It can explain it, but I'm just for speed, I'm just going to say, yeah, what the heck. This is where source control would come in, because you could source control the first version, and then if anything goes wrong now, you could actually take it back a step. So anyway, let's see. It's changing something in the HTML there, I can see. Okay. Has it broken anything? It's going. It's still thinking. Oh, there you go. I've updated the slide caption, so the bottom text panel is now white with black text. Okay. In style CSS under. So it's told me exactly where it's changed. That's very impressive, isn't it? So if I go back here and refresh, is that going to come back? Can't reach that page. It's broken it. It's broken it. Actually, I know why it's broken it. The reason being that I didn't open this file directly. I opened it via like a small web server to actually serve up the file. But if I open this, I tell you what I'm going to do. I am actually just going to run that command. Where's the one that I ran? Bear with me. I think I might have it. There we go. It's just a Python server. It's a whole new thing. It doesn't matter. We'll go through this at a later stage. But basically, it runs like a little mini local web server, so I can actually go and see what's going on. So let me do that again. There we go. There we go. Now, like I said, don't worry about what I just did there, because I could have literally just opened up the index.html in my browser and it would have still worked. It's just the way I'm serving this data up. But you can see now, it with one prompt, it said, yep, okay, I've changed that to white. You know, the text is really nice and clear. I could make the text slide in from the left, or, you know, slide up from the bottom, or things like that. But I mean, you can see where this is going. And again, just one last thing that we will look at. I said that was the last thing, but I'll just have a look at the usage. It's gone up a little bit because I remember. So yeah, so doing a few changes there, surprisingly, has cost an extra, what, 3 cents, because it was 15 cents, wasn't it? So, but again, 3 cents to do CSS changes. I mean, I'm really not the best CSS developer out there, but that would have taken me possibly about 10-15 minutes, half an hour maybe. So I don't know, is that worth 3 cents? In my book it is, but there you go. So that's what I've got for this time around. It is a little bit more codey than those online platforms. I think those online platforms like Lovable and Replit and Google Firebase Studio are still very good if you just want to get something running. I'm not a coder. Go in the browser, you do everything. But I like the fact that all of this, obviously this isn't free. The Open AI, the Codex CLI is using some API, Open AI even tokens, and it is costing, as you see, 18 cents. But that's 18 cents for a quotation app. I know it's only basic, but that's not that bad, I don't think. And again, I'm using VS Code. VS Code to basically just show the code. I didn't need VS Code, but VS Code is free anyway as a download. But it just allows me to work with this type of command line interface a little bit easier, but I don't need it. That's what I wanted to say. I could just do this from literally a command line. So it's pretty impressive. And like I say, it's generated code that is pretty clean, and it's a good starter. And I think, like I said, I might go through some further sessions with this to actually build a back end with a little database to have these quotations so you can update them. And it serves it out. And maybe we'll go through what are the options to then deploy this application. Because again, unlike those online ones like Lovable, Replit, etc., where they will do the hosting. You still have to pay, like I said, roughly about $25 a month. Whereas there's a lot of these platforms, Amazon AWS, Google Cloud Compute, Microsoft Azure, and lots of others. Because at the moment, this is a static web app, as they call it, even with a little bit of logic and even with a very mini database, most of these sort of major platforms will allow you to host that free. For instance, I'm hosting a website, or two websites actually, on Microsoft Azure, totally free with my own domain name. Okay, it's totally free. And there's a lot of other services out there that will also have this. So maybe that's what we'll do. We'll build on this if you think there's some value in doing that. Let me know in the comments anyway. And like and subscribe if it's of any use. Again, the summary is very much like Claude Code that I looked at a month or two ago, even down to the way that the command line tool works. But hey, it's doing a really good job. It's generated exceptionally clean code. It's a basic app, but yeah, I think it's certainly another interesting tool in the tool bag for you. Anyway, take care. Hope you have a good day, a good week, and whatever you get up to. And I will catch you on the next one.